So the father's too drunk to drive his wife. Should I take the next ride? He'll be born with a meter running. Shows you won't get.
I met him at school and he was being all sweet and stuff, and that's what drew me to him. And he was like really romantic and stuff.
He was, like the cliche, tall, dark and handsome. He was sophisticated and eloquent and just really mesmerizing.
I guess I was attracted to him physically. He was funny. He was quite the social butterfly. I used to think that he was very smart, so I looked up to him a lot.
When we first met, he was a bit of a rock star. He had a big, tough exterior, but a soft, squishy centre. He was an absolute gentleman. He was kind and caring.
I was in awe of his charm, his persuasiveness, his seemingly remarkable ability to take on his whole family problem. And like a deer, I was stunned by all that. I was stunned and in awe. So I guess if there's a figure that probably represents him at the time, it's a unicorn, because, unicorns are beautiful, magnificent creatures, but unfortunately they're not real, they don't exist. Even though there were telltale signs that I didn't recognise at the time, that actually he's not that person, he's a completely different person, of course, I didn't recognise any of the red flags.
We went to my first ever rock concert. He bought us tickets and the band comes out and I'm jumping up and down and I'm, getting into the music, and he just turns around and sit down. And I'm like, excuse me, we're at a rock concert. He's like, these tickets are seated. I've paid for seated tickets. You sit down and just listen. And I'm like, but I want to get up and dance. Sit down. And it was the most uncomfortable experience that I couldn't be myself.
When I went out with my brother, he would like crack it and was like, oh, are you cheating on me? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I'm like, no, I'm just going out with my brother, like, I'm just going for a drive. We're just going to go see some friends. And he would start always cracking it. So basically, like, from this romantic guy, he turned into this joker thing.
If other men paid me attention, he got very angry. He was quite possessive. So I think early on I thought that was great. He loved me so much, so I felt like I was his queen. But it wasn't normal to be that possessive.
So he would just keep calling whenever he would be out. So calling all the time, and where are you, what you doing, who are you with, where are you going, that kind of thing.
He always seemed to blame either myself or my family. He always seemed to have others to blame for how he felt.
So we went out on a first date and he parked his car in a no standing zone. He got booked and then gave me the ticket saying that, look, he didn't have a checkbook and that he'd pay me back. He never did, he never mentioned it again.
I was the breadwinner. I'd pay the mortgage. I'd work hard and pay for, he would just work and pay for his own expenses.
I wanted to go out one day to the movies with my friends, and he would be like, don't be late. And I remember coming home late because the movie started late, and he just locked me out. And I was pleading with him, and he was screaming abuse at me, and like no mother or no married woman should be out late, and he wouldn't let me back in the house.
I started for the first time feeling afraid of him. He didn't want people coming over. He didn't want my parents, my mum over. He didn't want my brother over. He was so controlling. His problems controlled everything else in our life.
So we're out shopping, and I wanted to get a couple of things for myself. We were very much well into the relationship now, so I thought, you know, we can share our groceries and things like that. And I wanted to get a particular item, and in the middle of the aisle, in front of everybody, put that away. He just jumped down my throat. He's like, put it away. What do you think you're doing? I said, but I need it. He's like, no, you, mind my French, if you know you don't, just leave it. You don't need it. And I said, but no, I do. And he's like, well, why don't you look at the thing next to it? It's on special. You know, find something that's cheaper. Why do you always have to go for that? He's telling me how to shop and what to shop, and it's like, but that's not what I need or buy. And like, I had to constantly have to change my way of doing things. He just didn't like it. So that was nightmarish. So yeah, again, in the middle of a shopping centre, just wanted to bury my head and die.
So I remember once he tried to hit my son, and who's young, and this is my daughter. She was watching everything from her room, and I would be, you know, trying to save my son on the floor, and he would be just hitting us both like this. And I just thought, you know, I just wanted to die sometimes because it got so bad.
If ever, you know, baby was sick, baby will cry or anything like that, oh, shut her up. I need my sleep, you know. He just could not deal with it. There was a time where she was actually really quite sick. She developed a fever, 41.3. It was Mother's Day. She started going blue in the lips. Her eyes started rolling in the back of her head. I'm like, we really need to get her to a hospital. And he was just in bed. It took him forever and a day to get out of what it felt like was, you know, forever and a day. By the time he got up, you know, he's come and he's had a look at her, and he's like, what the are you going to take her to the hospital for? She's fine. Just leave her be, you'll make her worse. I couldn't believe it. I rang the nurse on call. She said, you need to get your child to emergency. I explained this to him. It's like, they're effing stupid. Leave the kid alone. I basically kicked him out of the house. I said, you know, get your things, get out. I took the little one to the hospital, and I'll just never forget, like, all the alarms that were ringing. Her oxygen levels were really very, very low, and her fever was obviously through the roof, and he just didn't care.
My children have been the innocent, sweet, gentle lambs that I think have been really hurt and damaged by this process. Children want to love both parents. They don't see their parents as abusers. Growing up, they were exposed to lots of acts of pointless and malicious cruelty towards me. but always because it was inflicted upon me by their father, who was the powerful force in the relationship. They had to go along with whatever emotion the father was projecting towards me. So if the father kicked me and make me fall, as he did on a number of occasions, always with a protective arm around each of the boys, he would then laugh and make the boys believe that it was something funny that he did to me. So the boys would be momentarily confused, but then would go along with him and they would laugh.
Should I take the next ride?
I was at a point where I got really depressed. I got really down. I couldn't be alone with Leah anymore. I was feeling really afraid of being alone with Leah. So I could never be alone with Leah without my mum there. I lost all my confidence. I was scared of being a mum. Yeah, so he did a good job at taking away all my confidence as a mum, as a woman. And I remember him saying things to me in the house like, "You've got postnatal depression, and if I call, he said if I report you, they're going to take Leah away from you." So he kind of tried to mess with me. Yeah, like he was trying to put me down as much as possible. He was using Leah. He was using her to get to me.
I didn't necessarily give my job up, but I wasn't able to function at work because of the constant harassment, the stalking, the phone calls. So I was constantly either being sent home at work or I was breaking down at work where I had to be sent home.
He did choke me to the point where I almost died, to the point of unconsciousness on one occasion in front of my sons, who was 3 years old at the time.
The first few times I didn't fight back. I just let him do what he had to do. And then after that, I couldn't take it anymore. So I started fighting back, and that's when he showed his true colours, and he just turned more and more and more. And then a few times, I actually thought that I was going to die. And I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, I didn't want that to happen. So that made me realise that if I didn't fight back, something was bad was going to happen. And I just didn't even see that romantic person anymore. I just saw this evil clown.
He'll be born with a meter.
Because his nose is his weakness, and he used to have nosebleeds by little taps. I used to do it like on purpose to him, just so I could escape, and I'd go to his cousin's house and stay there for a while.
Shows you won't get a free ride. I know your baby's inching towards the light.
So what I did was I put up a barrier between us and left him outside, and then I started to separate what was going on in my life and like my personal life, and made another life of my own. This is when I discovered that I had opinions and strong views, and I started to share them on Facebook. And it was a fun and interesting times because I started to connect with lots of people, And so I had lots of people writing to me and wanting to know more and really encouraging me.
I had to be strong throughout the days. The days were quite hard, but then obviously night would fall, and once would go off to bed, there you go, stoned out of his mind there, I'll put little Bubby to bed, and what I would do is I'll go to the cupboard, I'll sit down, and I would start drinking. So it was just enough just to numb that feeling of constant fear.
And I did take drugs. I didn't want to do it. I was always against it. And then when I did do it, I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to go through anything. And that's basically like when I kind of drowned myself. Like to get through all of the memories, the bad memories, was just to like hide everything. It was kind of like a wake-up call.
But could you cover the seas?
A big thing was like the fear of losing all of his friends and family, because I had developed over the years, you know, such a strong bond with them.
I was still in love with who he was when I first met him.
I suppose what I really was hoping and wishing for, that we could have been a family and that we could have grown our family and that we could have worked through things and everything like that.
He said he was going to call the cops and say that I was the abusive one when he was. And I'm like, no, you're the one going to jail because you're the abusive one and I've got proof and everything. And he's like, but you're the one that's punching me. I'm like, but yeah, you like raped me.
Relying on so much and aware of so little. Gonna have to fill up the gas.
His main threats of, I'm going to kill myself if you don't come back.
He said that now we had Leah, there is no way that we will be separating. There's no way I will leave him. There's no way I'm going to have a divorce. He's the father of Leah and we're going to be together.
It just made him angrier and made him lash out more and made him come towards me, out towards to getting me more.
So the father's too drunk to drive his wife. Should I take the next drive?
My daughter, she was 4.5 at the time. And I remember her dad he was basically berating me in front of her to the point where I just fell down in a heap. I'm just crying, I'm begging him to stop, begging him to stop. She stood up, She stood up and she's said to him, Daddy, get up, go. Go outside, Daddy, just go. She was 4.5 years old. What child would do that? And then for her to go and get me the Kleenex, come and comfort me. She's comforting me. I'm a grown woman. I'm like, this is wrong on so many levels. This can't go on. This can't happen. I think you could say she was my inner voice, basically saying that little girl just getting up and speaking up for herself, saying, you know, this is not on. F off, you piece of, you know. And that's what I said to her. I basically turned around to her. I said, you know, I apologised to her. I said, Mummy's so sorry. It's like, you don't deserve this. You don't. You're a little girl. I need to be protecting you, not the other way around. That was a huge thing for me to get up and say, right, enough is enough, and start taking action.
Not knowing what else to do, I rang the Safe Steps number, and they said to me, when they heard my story, and it only took them a few minutes to sort of work out what was going on, they said, go to the police station, we'll meet you there. And I had an intervention order fairly quickly after that.
I started to ring the Beyond Blue people. They were telling me, are you okay? Should you even be there in this house? I'd like for you to pick up your things, get a few things, get your baby and go. But I was too scared to, I suppose, initially.
I got so upset. I rang the police and I rang the police and I said, look, and they said, if you're afraid to go back into your home, then it's, you know, you might have to take an intervention order out against your husband. So it took about a year, and it took a lot of support from my family.
Like there was a period where I wouldn't feel worthy. I remember feeling low all the time, and that, you know, life wasn't for me. I should just give up. But it starts within you, inside you. Inside you, that you can really, if you put your mind to it, just fight. Fight for what you want and what you believe in and what makes you happy, and follow your joy.
I got angry. I mean, obviously he hurt my baby, our baby girl. So I'm just like, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to go and I'm going to start a new life here. So there's the line, that's my property, that's my life, you sort yours out.
I'd always been this shy girl, so when I became this strong girl, everyone's like, whoa, what happened to you? Like, you were so shy and all this, but they don't know what had made me become this strong girl.
The one thing that kept me going is the fact that I had my mum there and my brother and my sister-in-law. But my mum gave me strength always. She was so protective of me.
When you keep it from like your family or like your parents or someone you love, it is harder. But once you confide it in someone that you can trust, it's easier, and they can like help you through every day, and they can also like check up on you if you need anything, like also somewhere just to go and to like run to.
With my parents also helping me, like there was this one instance where my dad put his foot down and went up and talked with him and said, if you're going to continue to be a bully, it's us, it's all of us against you, and you will be the one right here, all alone, and losing everything, and nobody wants anything to do with you if you continue this behavior.
Started going to counselling, and that helped me like 1,000,000 times more than anything else. Basically, when I used to see her, she would make me think of how when I was a kid, so when I was this little shy girl, and how this girl here is still me, but just like a grown-up, stronger version, because I miss being that little girl. So she helped me like that, to see how even though this little girl's gone, well, that shy girl, I'm still the same person, but just with more experience.
I also started to make lots of phone calls. So here I've got the phone, and I called the domestic hotline, and they told me what to do, if I needed to be out of the house, how to pack a bag, how to get my kids to safety. And then I sought counselling, and that helped me work out my issues, my strengths and my weaknesses, what I needed to do to move on if I wanted to. So my options and my choices were all laid out before me, and I just felt like I had this complete circle around me where I just started to feel much better.
My family GP for 3 generations now, he was a rock for me. Work was fantastic as well. They gave me, all the time that I needed to basically build my strength and my confidence back up again, that I was able to, come into work and not be fearful.
You think when something like this happens to you, you're the only person that has to go through it. You don't think that there are other people out there. So not knowing there was other people out there who had been in abusive relationships, it made it hard.
My counsellor suggested I join a group, women in similar situation to myself. It was really nice to be able to sit in a circle and kind of talk and just talk about things we have all been through. And then you just realize that, hey, you're not the only one.
Women Standing Strong helped me a hell of a lot, and hearing other women's stories, it was like so powerful. Basically, if you have another sibling that you're like really close to, like with my brother, it's very helpful because like there's someone in the family that does know what's going on, and if you don't want anyone else to know, you can just ask them to keep it between you two until you figure something out.
There's always help available, either through phoning services like the domestic helpline. They give you numbers, they referred, social media, Facebook. You can reach out to people online also, or Google services, ring up numbers. That's what I did. Also recommend counselling. That has to be done. That's my thing. If you want to heal properly and go on a good, better path in your life, counselling. Also, I found joining groups with people in similar situations. You can then have friendship and go on and keep in touch with these people if you want, and know that they know what you're going through. I guess not feeling like you're alone in the world and there's something that you can do about it. There's always something you can always do, whether talking to someone you trust or a neighbor or a family friend, something little, and it can start you on a journey to the better.
There is a lot of help and support out there. The key for me was the reassurance that I'm not the crazy one, I didn't make this happen, it wasn't my fault. That just reassurance, knowing right from wrong, and just reassuring that person and just supporting them through the process I get and helping them, like literally with every little step that it takes. I suppose because I got to the point where I burnt myself out emotionally, mentally, a full breakdown. So I needed constant reassurance, I needed constant guidance and help to get me out of that mess.